Comic Hunters, a game about drafting cards to build out your best Marvel comic collection. Doing it in various numbers of ways. What are those ways? Well, stick around. I'll show you what those ways are and how to play, and then I will tell you how it go. Alright, here we are set up for a two-player game of Comic Hunters. So in a 1 to 3 player game, you're going to choose two heroes. In this instance, I chose Black Widow and Iron Man. You're going to go through the decks, get rid of all of their cards that show just their symbol, and those can get put off to the side because we're not using them in this game. You are then going to grab 10 3s, 10 2s, and 6 1s. That is going to be your convention deck. You are then going to be shuffling it up and setting it off to the side thusly. You are going to take your remaining 6 superhero tokens, shuffle them up, and distribute them 1, 2, and 3 on the hero tracker. You're then going to do the highlights. You're going to grab 3 different highlights, put them on the highlight track. You are going to grab the player tokens for each player, put them at 15 stash points, and at each highlight. Last person to read a Marvel comic becomes the first player. In a 2-player game, this person is now considered player A, and that is going to be in relation to how the schedule actually goes and who goes first in what round. It'll be simultaneous, then A, B, simultaneous, B, A, B, and then the final convention is going to be who's lowest on the highlight track. So the game is going to be played over this schedule, which is going to have basically 3 drafting phases in each round. And you're going to be then building your collection. So the first one is the store. Each person is going to get 7 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. They are then going to look at their hand. They're going to choose one for themselves, remove one from the game, and then pass the hand over to their opponent. You are going to do this until you have 4 cards and have removed 3 each from the game. So 1, 2, 3. So we'll just say I took those 4 and 3 from the game. We each now have our hand of 4 cards. We would then move into the flea market. The flea market, if you look over here, is in relation to 2. This depicts everything. So what's going to happen with the flea market is we are going to start by putting 1 card face up in each row. Then, on a player's turn, they have one of 2 options. They can take an entire row, or they can reveal and add another card to a row. So we're going to look at the card, and we're going to add to a row. The rows are 4, 3, and 2 cards, respectively. So we'll say, let's add this up here, and then you're just going to keep going back and forth, and then we'll say someone puts one there, and there. And at this point, my opponent says, you know, I'm going to take this row. All right, cool. You took that row. I now can either take a row, or you know what? Let's go ahead, throw the final card there, and then I will take this row here. The remaining cards get added to that convention deck, and then you will shuffle it. So the third one is always a convention, but I'm going to go over the auction site next, and then we'll go over the convention just because it's A, B, C, and then D. So, for the auction site, whoever is the first player, or the active player in this instance, will draw 4, 5, 6, and 7 cards. They're then going to look at them and choose a way of splitting them. So say they go like this, a 4 and a 3. They will then choose one of the lots to auction off and put in a starting bid. You're going to go back and forth until someone passes. Then whoever has the highest bid will spend it on from their stash points. And then however many cards are in the lot that remains, that is how many stash points the next person pays. So in this instance, if I won these 4, say I spent 5 on them, then my opponent would spend 1, 2, and 3 for their 3 cards. Goes in their hand. These go in my hand. I'm going to sell them off there, though, because I want to show you how to build a collection based off of the actual way you would be drafting. So then, as I said, each one ends with the convention, which is you have this deck shuffled up. You will then form a grid of cards out here, which, let me do that really quick, and you'll see how it looks. All right, so this is how the convention grid will be set up. Then, whoever's the first player is going to first move a card if they want. They can move a card as many spaces as they want, but it cannot jump over other cards. So initially we'll just say, I'm going to look here and we're going to, let's push the Black Panther down. You then are going to choose a row or column, say a superhero name, and take all cards that match that hero's icon. So looking at these rows, I think we're going to say, we're going to take the Black Panthers in this row, so we take these two. Then what's going to happen is my opponent is going to go and then go again. So let's have them say they want to push Hulk. They can go over and up. They're going to go in this row and say Spider-Man, like such. And then they will move Hulk over and say Hulk and take these, which would then leave it my turn. And I'm looking and they didn't leave me much goodness. So I'm kind of just looking. That row's pretty nice. I could possibly bring someone around, but I basically want to try and grab as many cards of one hero as I can, which means I'm going to just bring this Spider-Man over and say Spider-Man because I like that this is a value 3. Whatever cards are left will get collected back up. And we'll go back into your convention pile, getting shuffled up again. So, after the convention, what you are going to do is you are going to attempt to complete or assemble your collections. So you're going to be looking at all the cards in your hand. Let me lay them out here for an example. And then you're going to be making collections. A collection needs a feature. One hero. If there's 2 hero symbols here, you choose which hero you're using them for. A collection also needs to start off with at least 2 cards. Otherwise, it's just a solo issue. So if you look, I have a few Black Panthers here. I have Spider-Man. I have some Thors. And then between the Hulk and Doctor Strange, I have that. So let's say I want to start this Black Panther collection. This is 2, 3, 6, 8. I need to spend 8, basically money, worth of points of comics in order to put this collection out. So I don't think I'm really going to worry about these. So we have 2, we have 4, 6, 7, and actually we're going to go like this because, so 3, 5, 7, and 8. The cards you spend go to the convention. You then kind of look to see what you have. Well, now I have quite a few Thors. So let's put out my Thor collection, spending 2. And then this card I can carry over to my next turn. You can carry over a maximum of 2. The other thing you're now going to look at is these highlights. So I have 1, 2, 3. I have 4 number 1s. So I'm going to take my token, move it to 4. I don't have any first, but versus I do have 2. So I'll move these over to 2. So we would do in the first one, store, flea market, convention, assemble, then store, auction site, convention, assemble, flea market, auction site, convention, assemble. In future turns, if I add to a collection, if I have my collections out here and say I want to, let's see, do I have something, say I want to put this Thor in this collection. I can discard the Thor for 3. I'll make sure I adjust my token accordingly. And then this just gets added to that collection. Say in the future I have this Captain America collection. I can now choose, because Captain America is here, I can move it from my Black Panther over to my Captain America. That does not cost me any money because it has already been part of my collection. I am just adjusting it. The reasons why you'll want to adjust your comics is for endgame scoring purposes. So you're going to score, let's look here, at your collection size. So the first thing is you're going to look at this hero tracker. So for Captain America, if I have 3 to 4 comics, it's worth 6 and it goes up. Thor and Spider-Man here. Black Panther, Doctor Strange, and Hulk is in that bottom row. So I'm going to see how big my collections are. So I have 3 size 3s, so this is going to be 6, 10, that'd be 15 points. Obviously my collection will be bigger than this at the end of the game. This is just an example. So that'd be 15 points for my collection size. You then look at your varied collections. In order for a collection to count, it needs to have at least 3 cards in it. So you need to have 3 collections with 3 cards, which in this instance I do, which would score me 5 points because it's based on different hero. You can never have more than, let's say, 1 Thor collection. You can't have 2 that be combined. So, depending on how many different heroes you have with at least 3 cards each, you'll score that many points. You'll score points based on where your secret stash ends up. And then you're going to look down here at the highlights. In a 2-player game, whoever has the most gets 15. Whoever has the second most gets 8 points. Total all that up. Highest points means greatest collection, which means you won. There you go. That is how you play Comic Hunters. So let's start off with what is inside the box. If you look up above, there is a link to our unboxing so you can see all the components individually. But I will start off with this because this is the big elephant in the room if you've heard anything about this game as of late, and that is the component quality in this game is subpar. It's not great. The tokens are super thin. Like when I was punching them out, I thought they were either going to rip or bend or something. The card quality is maybe passable. It's definitely one that I could see getting worn out quickly. We typically aren't ones to sleeve our games or upgrade any components unless like the company offers it, like Terraforming Mars, we have tons of upgrades for those. But like typically we don't try and just upgrade a base game. This is one that we may have to look into doing something to kind of sleeve the cards, upgrade the tokens, just because of the quality level of them is very disappointing. The box itself too is thin, and a lot of companies now use those little adhesive stickers in favor of the plastic, and a lot of times those peel off fine. They're a little hard, but you can kind of just do it slowly and gently, and they peel off fine, no problems. Not this one. I tried to peel it off slightly, and it just ripped the box. So my box is now ripped, has tape, because I don't want to take any more of them off and just do more of the rips. And like I said, just the box just does feel a little flimsy. The insert itself is also just a little cardboard things in there. All that being said, the artwork obviously is really cool because it's all old Marvel comic book covers. So especially if you've had any of those comics, it really has that nostalgic factor for you. The board itself is laid out well, although my one issue is for anything to be counted as a collection, you need to have at least 3. Well, for the varied collection, it just shows 2 card symbols up there. They should have put a 3 card symbol because you need to have a minimum of 3 for a collection. So like intuitively you look and go, well, as long as I have 2. No, you still need to have 3 as it's stated in the rule book, which that isn't the typo in the rule book, but the rule book does have a typo in it. When it comes to the auction, it has been clarified on Board Game Geek. I did do the proper rule in the how to play, where it's basically the auction is it's one stash point per card, not one stash point per point on card, because that would be wiping you out. But outside of that typo, I didn't have any problems with the rule book. The rule book lays everything out, and then for the 2-player, they have its own section. That solo player has that own section. So it is a decent rule book. I was able to get through everything and understand everything okay with it. Like I said, I obviously looked into that typo, but that was explained off. So speaking of that 2-player section in the rule book, let's get into that 2-player experience. So what you do on the 2-player experience is basically each round is slightly altered and turn order is slightly altered. For a turn order, you choose an active player, and that player is now player A. So then when there's not a simultaneous play like in the store, it goes, so simultaneous, then A, B, B, A, B, A, and then whoever's highest on the highlight track. So that in and of itself makes sense when you look at it. It's basically giving each person a chance at being the active player for like the flea market and for the auction site and for convention. It's just when you like are thinking about that in your head, you'd be like snake draft. Wait, it's not a snake draft because I'd be like A B B A B. Instead, it's A B B A B A. So it's like not the full on snake draft one that people might be used to doing in board games or other areas of their life. So that might take a little bit getting used to, but after a couple plays, you should be able to get it down. Is that just repetitiveness? The alterations in the drafting ones. So the store is really, I think, the biggest variety, and that is each person draws 7 cards, as you saw. They select one, and then they remove one from the game. So that's like really the only big tweak outside of the ones that I remember seeing. Like the auction site, it's still you set up to 2 lots. So obviously with more player counts, you're going to have more lots. The flea market, when you set up those rows, I believe the rows are bigger in multiplayer games. And then the convention, the cards are just laid out in a different way. So really your big change is the player order and kind of how you do the store. That's the biggest differences in the 2-player. In the 2-player and 3-player, you do remove 2 of the heroes. You don't play with all the heroes. So that's not exclusive to the 2-player, but because it's also there in the 3rd player, but it is something worth noting for the 2-player experience. But we didn't really have an issue with that. Everything still worked out well. We were still able to understand everything. The way that functions is still the same. It's not like they completely revamped how you do the auction. The auction is still your auctioning stash points. So nothing else really changed outside of possibly the numbers of certain things and that store, as I said. So, as for the gameplay, I have been saying numerous times that for us specifically, I don't know if other people feel like that, this is the year of the draft. We have played and tried out and seen so many drafting games this year. I don't know if it's just been more noticeable this year and other years have been this way, but this year specifically has been a huge draft year. And I know this game technically didn't come out this year in 2024, but it got released here in the US in 2024. So me personally, I'm including that as a 2024 release as it was more widespread. But this one has, 4 different ways of drafting in essence. I mean, the auction could be considered an auction, but you're still kind of drafting because it's a whole I cut you choose in essence. But yeah, so it's a huge drafting game where you're able to do it in different ways, and that's one of the things I really liked when I first saw this game and made me want to try it, is that it's taking that drafting mechanism and putting that variety on it, so you're not going to be having the same drafting method over and over and over and over and over again in the game. It adds up that level of difference in there, so you do have that variety to break up certain things. And the way you have to think differently in each game, it's not simply, I have a hand of cards, I'm going to grab the best ones. No, it's, especially that convention, is that sliding puzzle. How can I manipulate these cards to grab the cards I need? Like, especially if you are on that one where you get 2 in a row, it's like, well, what card do I want to slide to set myself up for next turn to try and make it so I can get the card I actually want over to where I need it. So that was really one of the key parts that really drew me in, was the different types of almost little mini puzzles or little ways of trying to optimize the cards you get. And then even though there are 4 different ways, there are 4 simple ways. It's easy to explain. The flea market is, on your turn, you're either going to flip over a card and add to one of these rows or just take a row. The auction. I mean, a lot of people know how an auction works. All right, we're going to auction that off. Start low, keep going until everyone passes, then you get it. The convention with the sliding of the card is the only one that could possibly cause that little hitch to where some people might need a little bit more explanation or a visual of it. But outside of that, all the other ones are bam, 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 done. And then even the fact that when you build your collection, the cards you use for payment go to the convention, that kind of adds that strategic element of trying to hope that you can get those cards back. Like, all right, well, I don't really want to play this card as payment, but I need to get these out, so I'll use it as payment, get in that convention deck, then hopefully it ends up in a row that I can grab so I can get it later and put it out. So that your payment cards kind of cycle back through is kind of a cool mechanism that I really like, because that card's not gone forever. Thematically, well, to get these cards for your collection, you trade them to this guy. Well, guess what? You're going back to a convention. That guy's there. Maybe now you can get your comic back from him for other things. And then with that rotation of drafts, the fact that you're not doing the store in that last round means that last round could possibly feel a little bit tight, because you're not going to be able to get out like 3 comics by spending 1 card, or be able to get out that good comic by having these small spending ones, especially to fill in those gaps so you're not overpaying. You're basically getting 2s and 3s unless you're able to get a couple of 1s from that convention from previous payments. So kind of that last round being basically you're getting 2s and you're getting 3s, kind of being like, oh, this is a little bit tighter, I can't get out as many comics, but it's still swingy because you move those highlights based on level of comic, so there could be a big swing in those highlights at the end of the game. So overall, we enjoyed the theme. We enjoyed the comic covers. There's definitely quite a few that I see that I collected when I was growing up. Huge drafting fans, as I've already stated, so the fact that this is a drafting game with a variety, also a huge draw for us that we love, and being able to manipulate that. The 2-player rules are not that complicated. I think I had to check back on them once when we hadn't played for a few days, just to make sure I was getting the player order right, and all honesty, that's basically the main thing that I ended up using the rulebook for. The components in the feel of the game, I will say that is what the huge drawback is for us. Just kind of, because trying to manipulate your little tokens on the board, trying to lift up these thin things. It takes down the experience for us. That just like a little bit of annoyance and aggravation. And so doing, I'm going to say it go good. And this is going to be the rare error where I actually give something a point. This is a 7.5. If the component quality was better, this would be an 8. It brings it down that half point for us. Normally I'm staying with whole numbers. This is a 7.5 just because that component quality does bring it down that half a point to leave it in that good range. So that was how I think Comic Hunters go. Let me know down below if you have played and what you think of it, especially if you had any of those comics growing up and if it elicited that nostalgic feeling for you. Then while you're down there, you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel. You could click on the bell to be notified as we release more videos. You can even share this video to see what others' input is on Comic Hunters, or maybe they have been intrigued by it as well and want to hear someone's thoughts on it. So, until next time, true believer.